I'd like to start by just welcoming all of you guys. Welcome to Tung. Welcome to everyone who's joining us online as well. Today is our group learning program where each Sunday and Wednesday I get together with students to help them to understand the path to enlightenment. We're going to be starting with meditation, where I'm going to be chanting in order to ease into the meditation. Then I'm going to be providing some guidance. There'll be a period of time of quietness. Then we'll come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And then that's where I'll start today's class, helping you to understand chapter 13 from this book, where you're learning to identify cravings, where you can cultivate non-craving and analysis of the mind, where you can learn how to go in and almost surgically remove the causes and conditions that are producing things like anger, sadness, frustration, and these other discontent feelings. So if you'd like to join for meditation, maybe pull up a meditation cushion or a chair. If you'd like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. And then afterwards, I'll come back in with the guidance to help you. Arahang Sama Sambuddho Mahakeva Bhutang Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang namasami Supatipano mahakavato Savaka Sankho Sanghang namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa Iti piso mahakava Arahang Sama Sambuddho Vichacharanang sammuno Sakato rokavitu Anutero purisa Dhamma sati satatawa manusrang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath, not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, gradual, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out.
สัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาพุทธังมหาเกวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเกวัตตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะเกวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสรังพุทโธภะคะวะติ
Okay, if you'd like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you guys here. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. This evening is our group learning program where each Sunday morning at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. I come together with students and guide you in a meditation session, but then I share a talk from this book, Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. And tonight we're actually in chapter 13, which is titled Identifying Cravings, Cultivating Non-Craving and Analysis of the Mind. This is where you can actually learn to go in and remove almost surgically the causes and conditions that are producing discontent feelings. The teachings of the Buddha are to get you to a point where you no longer experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of this can be eliminated from the mind by training the mind. That's what enlightenment is where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you don't experience those discontent feelings anymore. In order to be able to do that, you need to know what's causing these feelings. What's causing these feelings is craving, desire, attachment. This is the mind longing, yearning, chasing after the objects of its affection, wanting things to be a certain way. The mind's craving permanence while it lives in an impermanent world. Oftentimes people think it's the outside world that's causing these feelings, but actually it's the mind itself that's causing these feelings. This is the reason why you can eliminate them, because it's not other people that are causing you to be angry. It's your own mind that's causing this. So previously in this program, I taught many times about the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the 5 Precepts, meditation training, and many different things that are helping students to be able to build a foundation in the path to enlightenment. But now I'm going in and helping students to be able to understand how to almost surgically remove cravings, desires, attachments out of the mind. There is the Eightfold Path, which is the core central teaching of the Buddha that is helping to guide you to this enlightened mental state. And that's what somebody would really start with on the path. But once you've learned that and you're starting to put that into practice, you can learn this techniques here that I'm going to share with you tonight that are going to help you to almost surgically remove these cravings out of the mind. So first, just as a little bit of a recap, what is craving, desire, attachment? This is where the mind is longing, yearning, chasing after the objects of its affection, thinking the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide lasting satisfaction. This is like the mind's unquenchable thirst, forming feelings based on something external. That, for example, if the mind really wants it to be sunny and it's sunny outside, it might get really happy and excited about that. But then when it rains, the mind's sad or frustrated or angry. Or if your bank account balance is up here, you might get really happy and excited about that. But when it goes down here, you get sad or frustrated. This is being caused by craving, desire, attachment. The mind is craving for things to be permanent. Like I mentioned, oftentimes people think it's my mom and dad that are making me angry, or my brothers and sisters, or my wife or husband or boyfriend or girlfriend, or my children, or something like this. But really, it's the mind's craving, desire, attachment that's causing these feelings. So by uprooting these out of the mind, you can actually get to the point where the mind's very peaceful and very joyful. So there's the understanding that this craving, desire, attachment is what's causing the mind to be discontent. The number one goal on the path to enlightenment is to eliminate craving, desire, attachment. You're, of course, cultivating wisdom. That's what you're doing as part of the path, but that wisdom is helping you to be able to clean up the mind. Just like you have this body and you take a shower and you clean the body every day, there's this other part to this being, which is the mind. And if you're only cleaning the body and you're not cleaning the mind, then of course you have stress. Of course you have anxiety. So what the Buddha is teaching students to be able to do is to be able to clean the mind. And by purifying the mind, now more and more your mind can be completely peaceful and joyful. But how could you ever actually eliminate cravings, desires, attachments if you didn't know how to identify them? So this is almost like the second most important skill that you could develop on the path to enlightenment is how to identify your cravings, desires, attachments. There's meditation, which is very important to be able to practice, but there's other things that you need to get to enlightenment besides just meditation. Oftentimes people think the Buddha sat under a tree, he meditated and instantly got to enlightenment, and this actually isn't true. When you see rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer related to the teachings of the Buddha, those aren't his actual teachings. He's teaching you to train your mind. And there's meditation, yes, but there's other things that you need to be able to train your mind too. And one of the second most important skills that you could ever develop is to be able to look inward and identify your cravings. And that's what I'm going to help you to be able to do today. But while you're working on what I'm sharing with you today about how to surgically go in and remove your cravings, desires, attachments, you need to also keep in place your breathing mindfulness meditation, where you're regularly practicing breathing mindfulness meditation, which is what we just did, and practicing generosity. These are two practices that are training your mind to let go. So even though I'm teaching you what I'm teaching you today, this wouldn't necessarily be so effective if you weren't already practicing breathing mindfulness meditation and practicing generosity through the Eightfold Path and training the mind to let go. So when an individual is experiencing things like anger or sadness or frustration or guilt or shame or fear or stress or anxiety, what you can do is you can use this like a red light on the dashboard of your car. If you were driving a car and a red light came on the dashboard, what would you do? You'd probably pull over, right? You're not going to just keep driving the car. You would like to pull over. And that's what you would like to do when you notice that there's anger and sadness and frustration and these other discontent feelings in the mind. This is like a red light flashing, helping you to be able to see that you have craving, desire, attachment in your mind. So you can use these discontent feelings as an indication that your mind is not yet enlightened, and you can see that there's anger and frustration and sadness. So when you see that red light on the dashboard of a car, you're going to pull over. And if you have some skills, you're going to pop open the hood and you're going to start looking under the hood to see if you can figure out what's wrong. And if you can't figure out what's wrong, you're going to take your car to an auto mechanic, and now the auto mechanic is going to help you to be able to fix it. Well, in this same analogy, what you can do if you have wisdom is you can start looking inward and start looking at your own mind to figure out, what is your mind longing, yearning for? What are you craving? What is the mind wanting to be permanent? And that's what's going to help you to be able to see what's causing these discontent discontent feelings. But if you can't see what it is, that's where you have a teacher to be able to help you. That's the auto mechanic in this particular analogy, that the only type of person that would be able to get to enlightenment by themselves without the help of teachers or guides would be an actual Buddha. And that type of person is very rare in the world. The last one that the world is currently aware of existed over 2,500 years ago. So you're going to need somebody that you can have confidence in, that you can go talk to, and that you can get help to be able to identify these cravings. And if you do this maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 times, eventually you'll build the skill to be able to look inward yourself. And you don't need this person to be able to show you every single time where your cravings are, but instead you've built that skill yourself. But you'd like to use the discontent feelings like the red light on the dashboard of your car. And now I'm going to teach you this process that you can follow when you're experiencing discontentedness, when the anger is arising, when the frustrations are rising, when the irritations are rising, when any of these discontent feelings are arising, whether it's conditioned pleasant feelings, painful feelings, or neither painful nor pleasant, you would like to, in the moment, cut it off and let it go. That's why you're training your mind with breathing mindfulness meditation and generosity, to train your mind to let go. So you can observe and notice that with the arising of discontentedness, there's going to be these bodily sensations. There's going to be this tingling in the body, tightening in the chest, tightening in the throat, heat in the face, pressure in the skull. When you're noticing these kinds of things, this is the early warning system alerting you that you're about to experience anger, that you're about to get frustrated or experience shyness. Even these pleasant feelings, they have bodily sensations too. It's like tingling across the shoulders, up the back of the neck, and over the skull. And it usually feels very pleasurable to experience this. You would like to cut this off and let it go, not allowing your mind to form the conditioned feeling. Once you've cut it off and let it go, whether it's a pleasant feeling, painful feeling, or neither painful nor pleasant, you would like to then start looking inward and start reflecting. What is the mind longing, yearning for? What is it craving? What is it wanting and expecting? And now you can see, and I try to identify, what is the mind's craving. It's not the object itself that is the craving. It's the way the mind's longing, yearning for the object. Once you identify what the craving is, then you can put a plan together, which is step number 3, to actually go in and almost surgically remove your cravings, desires, attachments. And I'm going to give you some examples of that to be able to help you see what that is. If you're getting conditioned pleasant feelings from this craving, you're going to need to distance yourself from this object for a period of time to train your mind to let it go. And then with some things, you'll be able to actually ultimately come back to be able to use that thing again. If you're getting painful feelings or neither painful nor pleasant feelings from that particular thing, you're going to need to incorporate that into your life in order to expose the mind to it, in order to be able to let it go. Again, I'm going to give you some examples on this so you'll understand it. Then once you've done that plan and your mind has let go of that craving, you're going to need to repeat this process every single time for your cravings, desires, attachments, where when you notice the discontentedness arising, you cut it off and let it go as a bodily sensation. It can sometimes take you a year or longer just to get to the point where you can notice the arising of discontentedness as a bodily sensation. Then once you cut it off and let it go and the mind's now calm, you go to number 2, which is reflect and look inward to see what is your mind longing, yearning for. Then you go to number 3, where you put together a plan to almost surgically remove this. So let me explain to you how this works. I'll give you some examples from my life. One time I was driving down the street in my wife's truck, and I happened to be at a red light, and I reached down and I touched my pocket where I normally keep my mobile phone. And I noticed that I didn't have my mobile phone with me. And right away, there was this fear that came up into my mind. And what I did in the moment is, number 1, I cut that off and let it go. Didn't allow the mind to experience that, right? The fear was starting to arise. I noticed it as a bodily sensation. I cut it off and let it go. And then I started looking inward. I started reflecting. I went to number 2. I started looking inward. What is my mind longing, yearning for here? Why am I so scared? Why am I fearful? Oh, the mind's craving the phone. The mind wants the phone to be permanent, right? Well, then right away, when I started realizing it was the phone, I wanted to turn around and go home and go get the phone. That was what my mind initially thought. But that doesn't actually solve the problem. But that's what most people would end up doing in that situation. They think if they turn around and go get the phone, it actually solves your problem. but it doesn't actually solve your problem, because inside the mind, that's where the problem is, that the mind is craving permanence. It wants this phone to be permanent, where going home and getting the phone doesn't actually solve the problem, which is uprooting that craving out of the mind. So knowing this process, what I did instead is I put together a plan to extinguish this craving, because I was getting pleasant feelings from the phone. But now when I stepped away from the phone and I left the phone at home, I was experiencing painful feelings. So I needed to distance my mind from this phone. I was only supposed to be outside for about an hour and a half that day, but instead I decided to extend the amount of time that I was outside. I stayed outside for like 5 or 6 hours. I went and did the initial things that I was supposed to do, but then I went to go eat. I went to the movies. I did a whole bunch of other stuff, staying outside for longer and longer periods of time, putting my mind in the situation that it didn't want to be in, which was be away from this phone. I had to distance myself from this phone. Now, when I went home after about 6 hours, I didn't just go rush to the phone and see who was sending me messages and so forth. I just left the phone where it was at. After about an hour or two, playing with my son, watching TV or what have you, I then went and looked at the phone, right? And now, about 2 or 3 days later, I decided to do it again, right? Because I hadn't let go of the craving just one time being gone. So about 2 or 3 days later, I left the phone at home again, and I went outside, and I didn't feel any fear, but I felt uncomfortable without the phone. It felt a little bit awkward to go outside without the phone. So then I went outside without the phone, and I spent, again, about 5 or 6 hours outside. And then when I came home, I didn't just go look at the phone again. Then about 5 days after that, I left with the phone, without the phone again. I left it at home intentionally. But this time I felt completely comfortable outside without the phone. And I was pretty confident that I had let go of the craving, desire, attachment, but I still spent time outside. And then when I came home, I didn't go look at the phone right away. And I was pretty confident that I had let go of this craving. But about 2 months later, once again, I was driving down the road. This time I was on my motorbike, which I don't ride motorbikes anymore, but I used to ride a motorbike. And I reached down to touch where my phone was, and it was gone. And I was like, oh, well, and I just kept on driving. No fear, no uncomfortableness, no nothing, because my mind had let go of that craving for it to be permanent, and I could just go outside and be comfortable without it. Then about a year after that, I accidentally dropped my phone on the floor, and the screen shattered. And I picked up the phone and I looked at it and I smiled and I started laughing, right? If I had a craving here, I would have been upset. I would have been angry that the phone was broken. But I could see through that experience that the mind had let go of its craving because I just started laughing. And fortunately, my wife had another phone that she wasn't using, so I didn't have to go buy another phone because I couldn't afford another phone, so I could just use her phone, right? So this is the kind of thing that you need to do if you're getting pleasant feelings from something. This is you're distancing yourself from it and training your mind to be comfortable without it. And then ultimately you can come back and start actually using the phone again. And a lot of people have phones. So you might decide to do this where you leave your phone at home and go outside without it and train your mind to be comfortable in that situation. Because if you just hold on to it and you take it out every single day, you're never going to be able to train your mind to let it go. Another example, if you have pleasant feelings, just let's say you go to a restaurant and every time you go there, you eat chocolate cake and you're really happy about this chocolate cake and it tastes so good and you just can't wait to get to that restaurant, right? Well, let's just say you go one time to the restaurant and they say, sorry, we're all out of your chocolate cake. We don't have chocolate cake. If you notice you get angry or frustrated there, that's because your mind's having a craving for the chocolate cake. The mind's craving for it to be permanent, when in reality it is impermanent. So now it would be wise to go to that restaurant and not order the chocolate cake and do that for multiple months to train your mind to let go. Or maybe just don't even go to the restaurant at all. And now over time, when your mind lets go, where you can be just as happy going to the restaurant and eating the chocolate cake and going to the restaurant and not eating the chocolate cake, now you know your mind has let it go and you might just decide to start eating the chocolate cake again because there's no harm with eating chocolate cake. Right? So this is things that you have pleasant feelings from. But then there's going to be some things that you have painful feelings about, right? And if you have painful feelings about something, you're going to need to incorporate that into your life and expose your mind to it to train your mind to let it go. I'll give you a story about this one too. I'm sure you guys know about durian fruit, right? those of you guys online, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with durian fruit. There's a fruit here in Asia. It's called durian, and people usually really, really like it, or they really don't like it, right? In my opinion, I think durian fruit, at one time, I used to think it smells like poop, right? And I've never had poop in my mouth before, but the first time I put durian fruit in my mouth, I thought it was poop because it had the same consistency of what I thought poop would be, right? So I was repulsed by this. I thought it was horrible, and I didn't want this fruit around me whatsoever, right? So this was my mind being repulsed by the smell and the flavor of the durian fruit. So knowing this, I needed to expose my mind to this. I needed to bring this into my life because I was pushing it away. So what I did is I decided to start eating cake that had durian in it, because the cake, it changed the consistency. I could still smell it a little bit, but it changed the consistency. So I ate durian cakes for a period of time. And then after I did that for a while, then I went to the real fruit, and then I could start eating that normally. And I didn't have any repulsion towards it. I didn't have any painful feelings. So there's going to be various things like this. Like, let's just say that you get really scared and lots of stress and anxiety around large crowds. And when you're around large crowds, you have a lot of stress and anxiety and anger and frustration. Well, you're not going to solve this problem by choosing to never go around large crowds. You're going to actually need to go around large crowds and spend time around large crowds to expose the mind to this. And by exposing the mind to this, it will train your mind to let it go. Or say when you see a spider or a snake, that you have fear that comes up into the mind. You're not going to eliminate this by trying to avoid the snake or the spider. You're going to need to expose your mind to it. You're going to need to look at pictures of a snake or a spider. You're going to need to maybe go to a museum where snakes are preserved or spiders are preserved. But then ultimately you might decide to go to the zoo or to a pet store where they're actually alive and you can see them, and you can train your mind to be comfortable and not have fear just because you're seeing a snake. So this is what you would like to be able to do, is follow this process. I'm going to stop here and see if anybody has any questions, whether you're online or you're here at the temple. You guys at the temple, if you guys would like to ask questions, we have microphones there behind you in the white bowl so that the people online can hear you. For the people online, if you would like to ask questions, you can put this into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section. I'll be able to see that. Or in Zoom, you can raise your hand electronically, unmute your microphone, and ask any and all questions you like that way. So let me know what questions you guys have here. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. Okay, so what I normally do as part of this class is I just open up to anybody who would like to ask questions about certain cravings that you have. If you have a certain craving that you would like to get help with putting together a plan of how to eliminate it, I can make myself available to you here in class to be able to talk about that. So if you have a certain craving or certain discontentedness that you're experiencing and you would like to talk about that, just let me know. You can, again, put this into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand electronically in Zoom. Let me know what you're actually experiencing, and then I can help you to understand how to put together a plan, how to almost surgically remove this from your mind so that you can get rid of this craving so you won't experience a discontentedness anymore. So let me know if you guys have any of those types of things that you'd like to share. Okay, I don't see anybody with a question. So what I'll do then is I'll just end class here by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn and understand. Thank you for you guys online as well that joined. What I'm going to be teaching next week is chapter 14. Chapter 14 is titled Cultivating Healthy Mental States, Loving Kindness, Compassion, Sympathetic Joy, and Equanimity. These are oftentimes referred to as the Brahma Viharas. These are 4 healthy mental states that are actually going to antidote certain symptoms in your mind. This is where where the Buddha oftentimes gets the reputation of being like a doctor, because there's certain symptoms that are in the mind, and there's a certain prescription or a certain antidote that is applied. But you are your own best doctor. So if you understand the wisdom of how to identify the symptoms, and then you know how to apply the prescription, you can actually remedy your mind. So I'm going to be teaching this next week as part of the class at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. So whatever you guys choose to do today, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Take care. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.